the difference between being a generous, giving person, which is our assignment as women, which is something we're told to do and told to fold into our sense of self from a very young age, flips into people pleasing once it starts to have ramifications for our own emotional or physical health. And when we start to sound the alarm about that, we're told that we're a people pleaser and we need to fix that instead of fix the situations that we're in where we are doing more than our share.
Welcome to Zestful Aging, the podcast where we celebrate aging with vibrance and we defy the stereotypes of what it means to age. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, a psychotherapist of more than 30 years, here to introduce you to my off-the-mainstream guests who will energize and inspire you. My hope is to create optimism about getting older and help you cultivate zest and joy in this season of your life. And I love to hear feedback from you, my listeners. Please drop me a line at zestfulaging@gmail.com. I read every single comment. And to find out more about this podcast, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. Oh, wow. We have a great guest for you today, a real treat. So when you think about people pleasing, what comes to mind? And I'll tell you that many of my therapy clients are discovering that their long history of trying to make others happy and comfortable is actually causing them distress and even causing health problems. But the good news is that as we age, we seem less and less interested in putting everyone else's needs first. So what is happening here, and why might you want to consider paying attention to your need to please others? Our guest today is Amy Wilson, the co-host of the popular podcast, What Fresh Hell. Amy has appeared on Broadway in her own one-person show and Saturday Night Live, and she's just written a beautiful book called Happy to Help: Adventures of a People Pleaser. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to talk to you because, as I said off mic, this is a book that is really nuanced. It's not saying, hey, people pleasing isn't necessary. You're fine. Just stop what you're doing, do some self-care and some me time, and it's all going to be fine. It's as I was reading it, I was thinking to myself, this is the best description of how it feels to be a woman in relation. It's there's such subtleties, and just the whole experience of reading it was so resonant. And I know how people are going to experience it. Like, you really were able to put to words the actual experience and also funny examples. But I wanted to start with, as so many people can identify with your struggle here, the desire to make others happy, and we're really good at it.
Right.
We as women seem to know exactly how to be helpful. We've got the empathy. My adult son was going out fishing a few weeks ago, and I find myself like packing snacks for him. He knows that there's stuff he can take in a cooler, but I'm just like busy, packing high protein, make sure he has water and all this. It's second nature for us to nurture. And I think many people see that as, are we challenging this and why? And I'm curious to start with the difference between being generous and nurturing and people pleasing. How do you see the differences?
I mean, I might have sort of a radical point of view on this, but I think the difference between being a generous, giving person, which is our assignment as women, which is something we're told to do and told to fold into our sense of self from a very young age, at least in my case, and I think in a lot of women's cases, flips into people pleasing once it starts to have ramifications for our own emotional or physical health, and when we start to sound the alarm about that, we're told that we're a people pleaser and we need to fix that instead of fix the situations that we're in where we are doing more than our share.
And the irony, and you talk about this in the book, which is really, again, so resonant, is when you stop people pleasing.
Yeah,
Harriet Lerner taught, I don't know if you know the book Dance of Anger, but
I
when
do.
when you stop people pleasing, there's something called change back. We actually really liked that. What's happening here?
Yes, exactly. And I do talk about that in the book, that trying to change, and some of the examples are very mundane, right? When I set out to write this book, I sat down with my family. I had 3 teenagers at the time and said, okay, everybody's going to have to just step it up around here. Well, what do you mean? Well, like, just if you see that there's dishes that need to go in the dishwasher, put them in. And then if it's pretty full, put some soap in and turn it on. And they're like, but you're the only one who can get the dishwasher to work. It doesn't work when I try it. You immediately get it hit back across the net to you, even the smallest thing, because you want to return to what's familiar. And I think in my case, in these small mundane ways, I immediately took those things back. Fine, I knew it wouldn't work. Fine, I'll just do it all myself. I'll just get up earlier. Thanks for nothing. I saw the slightest bit of resistance to change as evidence that change wasn't possible.
Were you conscious about that? Did you say to yourself, I'm really good at getting the right dog food? That was an example you
Yeah.
used. Your husband was at the store and you're like, I know exactly the color of the bag. I know where it is on the shelf, that you're really good at it. Is that part of the pull, that it's kind of easier to do by yourself?
Yes, right. In that example, the change starts to occur. My spouse notices we're out of dog food, walks to the pet store, and then texts me. Then there's that little pull back to the familiar. I don't know what kind she likes. I'm not sure which kind to get her. She's not picky, let me tell you, my dog. And so I started to text, it's the third row, it's on the back, it's on the top, and with that, freighted with that is the expectation that if you don't bring back the one I tell you to bring back, it's the wrong one. I mean, we're both participating in
Yes.
that, right? You have to tell me what to do. And I'm like, you have to do exactly this. And so, yeah, I did start to do that. And in that case, like, backspaced and didn't send that text, just said, like, anything you pick will be fine. And it was. And that's how change occurs. But it's the smallest example that also hints at a way that my relationships with my loved ones that I live with has really changed because of this. But the change is incremental and it takes a while, and it is easier to just roll back downhill to the way things were for everybody, including yourself. But that doesn't mean the change is impossible.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a gravitational pull, right?
Yeah.
To not say, hey, it's this brand, and actually, if you go online, there's a coupon, and
Right.
you're really good at it because you practiced it. The other thing I thought was so interesting is when you sat down with your family and said, "Hey, I need some help here." There's this sense of what you do is invisible, right? You're just always moving in the background, having an eye towards when the dishwasher needs to be run. I had a not a therapist, a therapy client talk about, why am I always the one who knows that when we need more milk? And that was kind of her metric of somebody's paying attention and somebody's not. How do you think about that? This thing, I'm always the one who knows when we need more milk. What do you make of that?
I think it's true. I mean, I think the invisible workload is invisible to the people we live around us. We keep the pattern of their daily lives very smooth and undisturbed. We think that that's our job. We feel good when we do that. And again, when you start to say, I need you to notice that we need more milk, when somebody responds to you with, what do you mean? Like, how would I know that? Why don't you just tell me when we need more milk? That is the first thing you're going to say. It doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't make them out to ruin your life. It just right? It's just they're
It's so
pleased with the way things
entrenched.
are. It's
It's
entrenched.
so entrenched.
And P.S. It is a little better for them when you do all the noticing and
Mm.
tracking and remembering, right? Allison
Mhm.
Damager, she talks about it, the invisible workload, and she calls it
Yeah.
cognitive labor. And
Yes.
she says, I talk about this in the book, that everything you do actually has 4 steps. You have to notice it, you have to track it, you have to remember it, and then you have to execute it, I guess is the
Mm.
4th one.
Mhm.
So each noticing you need more milk is the first part, right? Then you have to remember to write that down. Then you have to remember when you get to the store to get it. Then you have to get it. Then you have to bring it home. These are
Mhm.
there's 8 steps in getting more milk. And
It
I
takes
think
up brain
yes,
space.
it takes up brain space. That's right. And I think if the people around us are not used to doing that, of course they're disincentivized to figure out how to do that, but they're going to have to figure it out. It takes a while, but again, it doesn't mean that you can't right the ship on I have to be in charge of making everybody happy all the time and nobody ever returns the favor.
Do you think would you call this a feminist notion?
I think so. Yes. I mean, I do.
Mhm.
I mean, so I'm the oldest of a large family. I was a Girl Scout. I went to a Catholic school, um, and in all the ways that I was raised and the traditions in which I found myself, I was a happy helper. I was told to be
Mhm.
that. The scouting motto, which is for boys and girls, is on my honor, I will try to help other people at all times. You say it. You
Mm.
say it in this. If you're telling an
Mhm.
8-year-old that they have to help other people at all times. Now, not every Girl Scout becomes a people pleaser, so maybe it's just some of us who really pick up on that. But I was the type of kid who set out to do things. I did get um, great personal identity out of helping people and being good at
Mhm.
it. I still do. You know, I don't think
Mhm. Mhm.
when we were talking about some subtitles for this book, the publisher was suggesting things like happy to help, but not really, happy to help and other lies. And I kept going back and saying, like, but nobody's lying. I'm not lying. I was happy to help.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just you reach the limits of your abilities. Sometimes you reach situations that you can't fix no matter how hard you try, no matter how long you stay. And then what?
And so let's talk about that. How do we know? Because this is the water we swim in,
Mm-hmm.
and or I guess we could use the boiling frog analogy.
That's
But
right.
so you're used to it. We're good at it. We get reinforced for it. People enjoy that we're great at anticipating needs. When do we know that it's hurting us?
And that's a good question, right? In my case, a story I tell in the book, sort of the when did you know, the aha moment, which I
Mhm.
don't know if it's related at all, but I think it might be. I woke up a couple of years ago with vitiligo one day
Mhm.
on my arm, and I'd never had it. I was in my 50s when I got it for the first time. Um, and it is, if people are listening don't know what it is, it's an autoimmune thing where your skin starts to attack itself. Your melanocytes die overnight and the skin turns white. And pigmentation is tricky and uncertain whether you can get it to return. And the course of it is also uncertain. It's not dangerous. You don't die of vitiligo. It's just your skin color dying on you in very unpredictable ways.
Your body's talking to you.
Your body's talking to you. It doesn't hurt, and right. So I went to the doctor. What is this? It's vitiligo. There's no cure. Try not to worry about it because that'll make it worse. Might get a lot worse. Who can say, right? And those are the answers. And then the doctor asked me, like, were you in a car accident? And I said, no. And because you would think that there would be a terrible shock to the system for you to have this sudden onset of
Mm.
vitiligo at your age. Now, this was a year into the pandemic. So I was like, well, I have been
Mm.
living under a lot of stress. And this doctor, male, said, well, not that kind of stress. And I thought, I was so
Mm.
mad, that the daily stresses of my life, which during the pandemic were considerable,
Mhm.
all of them was for all of us, was being deemed not good enough by this guy.
Mhm.
As it turned out, there have been studies saying that yes, The pandemic could have been enough to cause vitiligo in people. And then also the coronavirus could have caused vitiligo in people. So it's
Okay.
only one or the other. It's actually I got the virus well before there were vaccines available, had a pretty bad case. So that could be what it is. Or it could be that the stress caused it. But in either way, it was my body on my right hand, my dominant hand, and up my arm, moving up my arm. Every time I, reached to grab something or sign my name or whatever, used my right hand, my dominant hand, there it was saying, there's something wrong.
Mm-hmm. That must have been scary.
It was scary.
And then, vague and
yeah. And then in a very female way, like I said, it's not dangerous. Lots of people live with vitiligo. The only damage is to your self-esteem. So I would be mad at myself for being so vain about it. And then the next day it would start to change. And I'd see it would morph. It'd get better for a couple of months and then it would pop up in another part. And the inability to control your own body in that way, even if it was, quote unquote, not a big deal, was strange. And so I'd be kind of weirded out by it, unsettled by it, and I'd be mad at myself for making a big deal about nothing. You know what I mean? And I think that's true for women too. Look, this wasn't cancer at all, but it was something that was unsettling and happening to me. And every time I would feel that way, then I would tell myself I didn't have a right to feel that way.
Oh boy. Just the sacrificing and we're so good at saying, okay, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Right. This is no big deal. You don't deserve to be upset about this.
Hi, Zesties. Hey, if you're enjoying this episode, I would so appreciate if you would share with just one person, like a family member or a friend who would enjoy and benefit from Zestful Aging Podcast. Thank you so much. And so when did you make the link between what your body was saying and how you were living and orienting yourself in your relationships into the world?
Well, the treatment for vitiligo, either at the hospital or at home, they put you in sort of a special tanning booth where they sort of blast you with UVB light. And then I eventually got a handheld version. I was a compliant enough patient that it was working, and they gave me a handheld thing that I could use at home. And so I would, hold it to my arm. I was watching TV at night, and it started to get hot to the touch. And they told me to keep increasing the time a little bit at a time. So I would do that 10 seconds, 20, whatever. So all of a sudden I'm up to 7 or 8 minutes, hitting each of these different parts of my arm. It's taking me 40 minutes at night. And the machine is hot, and I'm thinking, like, there's no way I'm supposed to keep turning this up forever. I'm supposed to keep doing more. And the doctor said, no, you'll wake up burned, and that's when you'll know it was too much, and then you can stop.
Wow.
How about that? And I thought, okay, I'm gonna unpack this, because that can't be the way we live our lives. That we'll know the next day when we've done too much and we're burned, and then we get to stop, but we can't stop.
That's a beautiful metaphor.
Yes.
Perfect metaphor.
Yeah. So I thought, I can't believe that. And in this case, I didn't keep increasing the time. I started decreasing the time, and the vitiligo right now is under control. But that's not the point, because it's not something that can be vanquished. It looks pretty good right now, and it might start to, move around again. But I thought, I can't accept that prescription for this one part of my life.
That
or
was
for any
too
part
much.
Of my life.
That was just too much.
Yeah.
Even for you, who probably, well, you mentioned you're compliant, and sure you were super respectful, and you went in seeking advice, and you're kind of the perfect patient.
I'm the perfect patient. That's right. Regular flosser. I'm that kind of person, but and the vitiligo probably is a little better than if I had done nothing, but it's not gone, and it stays with you, and it's sort of, for me, a daily reminder of, you just have to accept uncertainty, which is the only way to move through this world, especially right now.
And so did you articulate to yourself, I've got to change the way I am with people and in my world? Was this a kind of a lesson in, I really have to rethink how I behave?
It wasn't that I thought I had to change how I behaved. I did want to get more help from the people around me. But I
Mm-hmm.
did start to wonder if there were times that I had over delivered in my life, and there
Mm-hmm.
were, and why I had, and would somebody else have known to stop sooner? I guess
Mm-hmm.
that's what it was. If you're not supposed to stop when you wake up burned, then when are you supposed to stop? And why was I the one that stayed in the dead end job when somebody else was like, I'm not doing this? I was on a board volunteering a lot of my time with
Mm-hmm.
a board president who was actually like verbally abusive, and all around me people were like, I'm a volunteer, I'm not doing this, and quitting, and I was staying, trying to make it work, trying to make this person like me. Why do I keep going? And I don't really think it's this like, well, people pleasing, like, what if they don't like me? And it isn't that. It wasn't insecurity. It was, but I just have to keep going, and I can fix
Mm-hmm.
this if I just try hard enough. I can make this other person see that the way I feel is right, or that the thing we're doing is right, or that this relationship that isn't working out is actually worthwhile. I will prove my worthiness.
It's
Um,
also an interesting thing because this idea uh, gives us a lot of power in some way, right? Like you have the influence and ability to change somebody's way of being.
yes, yes. I'm going to prove. I had a boyfriend who kept cheating on me, and like these are tests of my
Right,
ability to love, and I'm going to stick it out. You're going to see that I
right.
can handle it. That was
Anne
not.
Lamott talks about that too sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Anne Lamott, I thought about her a lot. She has a quote about helping is the sunny side of control.
Oh my gosh, how perfect.
And I think that that's true. I think that there are definitely times in my life where I have offered help that nobody exactly asked for. You know what I mean? Like I'm showing up with
Mhm.
my parents were downsizing their house, and I sort of wrangled everybody, and we got a dumpster in the backyard. Like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. And then I only
Mhm.
thought later, like, did they want me to do that, or were they like, here she goes again? She's here to save the day. It doesn't make you a bad person. I think people usually are happy to have you assist them, but you see what I'm saying? It wasn't always something people were asking for. It was just, here
Mhm.
she goes again. She's
It's
going to
that's
take
so
over.
interesting. Yeah, I think that's so interesting. So I know that developmentally, women who the kids start launching or don't need us as much, our jobs may be changing, our partnerships may be changing. We're looking at our bodies and we're not, we don't look the same as we
Yep.
did when
No
we're
matter what you
25.
do. Exactly.
Whatever you do. Um, and it's a very natural developmental readjustment. Many women, and you'll see here, Helen Mirren has great quotes about this. Women really find that as we age, we take a step back and say, wait a minute, what do I like, for goodness sake? What I didn't even know. I don't even know what I like, what I want to eat, where I want to live because I never asked and nobody ever asked me. So,
Yeah.
really, we see this as a very typical developmental task, if you will. Do you think that part of your enlightenment was about also getting older and your kids getting older, or or not necessarily? Do you see this as part of
Oh,
a developmental phase?
I do. Yes, there comes a time when you think, you realize, I guess, I remember thinking during the pandemic, oh, I put on a little weight, I go up a pant size. Well, I'm going to whip this back into shape. After this, I'll be able to do this. I'll be able to turn it around. Well, guess what? You can't turn it around once you have this postmenopausal
Yeah,
metabolism, right?
right.
That just slows down. It's supposed to, and you can spend all day, every day, feeling really
Mhm.
bad about that, or you can have more acceptance that the odometer is rolling, and that's still happening no matter what you do. And so I read in the book about trying to lean into acceptance, which I think is harder than it used to be. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I remember. I think about the who I considered old ladies at the pool. They were probably younger than me, wearing their skirted bathing suits, and they had spray and tease and wash sets, whatever you call that, at the pool. And they'd stand in the pool and laugh, and you couldn't go near them in case you splashed their hair. And
Right.
they just seemed like almost like a coven of friendly witches to me, right? Like they're old and they laugh all the time because what do they care? They're old, so you don't have to worry about being old. You are old, and now I am that age, and I'm using 10 moisturizers and lifting weights and having protein shakes and trying to. Longevity is one thing. Looking younger than your age and stopping the odometer is not possible.
Yeah. And that's a whole other conversation
Right.
about
It
the
is.
pain of fighting the inevitable and what
Yeah.
that does to our psyche.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, one of the things we talked about, I just wanted to go back to the physical part because off mic we were talking about Gabor Mate, who you've spoken to on your podcast, and who's a really influential thinker. And he has this book out now called The Myth of Normal. And he is very clear that a lot of these autoinflammatory diseases, many of them are happening for women, that they're about saying yes when your body is saying no, is really abandoning oneself and ignoring one's own needs. And he talks about this robust research, and he talks about his colleagues all agreeing that, oh, yes, this is the profile of women who have autoimmune disorders. And I see this also in my clients suffering with these kind of different maladies who have, for various reasons, not been able to say no thank you to that. What are your thoughts about that? How profound the physical effects could be?
I think that there's evidence that it's true and that it is true. And I think that where we don't get what we need or deserve as women for healthcare is when it's put back on you. Like, well, if you just said no more, then you wouldn't have this autoimmune disease. If you weren't such a type A person all the time, then you wouldn't have migraines or chronic pain. These things go together, but it's a chicken and egg situation. If you have rigidity because you're crippled with migraine pain 18 days out of the month, right? It isn't as easy as like, well, let's just relax and then you wouldn't have those. It's putting the literal blame for the disease back on who you are. And I think, yes, if you're getting migraines, you need to do things to address your health, to find more ways to stimulate your vagus nerve, to relax, right? You need to do those things for yourself. But it's not a flaw in your personality that's making you sick. If you have a sick kid and a sick parent at the same time, yeah, you might come down with vitiligo, but that isn't like bad person, stop right?
Flaw, weak character.
Yeah, it's not a character flaw, right? It's a get more childcare situation, maybe, right?
So you really want to challenge this idea, and this is, of course, the theme of the book, that this isn't about you trying too hard or being too good. It's about trying to be a good woman in our world that is reinforced in many invisible ways all throughout our lives.
Yes, that's right. It's the assignment. And then when you hit the limits of that, to be put back on you, like, well, you shouldn't like to make things harder than they need to be. That's not helpful. It doesn't help you address your situation. The situation needs to be addressed, not your personality disorder.
Talk about, when you say the situation, tell me more what that means to you.
Well, I think, for example, there's a term called maternal gatekeeping that people tend to use when if you're the only one who loads the dishwasher in your house and you'd like to change that, what's often put back on you is like, well, you want the dishwasher loaded a certain way. You don't want me to
Mm.
help. You wouldn't let me help. And the advice is like, well, stop doing that. Stop doing that, and they'll want to load the dishwasher more. And in my house, I don't care how the dishwasher is loaded. I just want somebody besides me to do it. And
Mm.
guess what? It's happening now. Let me just say, like, yes, again,
Mm.
change is possible. We have a more equitable distribution of household labor in my house by far. But this maternal gatekeeping idea, you say this needs to be changed. And then you hear back, well, it can't change because your standards are too high. And then it's like,
Mm.
okay, end of discussion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Terminating. And I think that's unfair that when things are imbalanced and we say we need help, the prescription is put back on us to change something
Yes.
about ourselves
Well,
first.
that's the theme, right? And I
Right,
can hear the frustration and anger in your voice as you say, but no, that's
right.
not. So tell me, I'm curious about the effect on, I know you have at least one daughter. You have two
Hmm.
daughters, am I remembering?
I have two sons and one daughter.
Two,
My youngest
okay.
is a daughter.
Um, do you think this shift in your family in the labor distribution, did she notice, and do you think it had an effect on how she sees herself as a young woman?
I think it really has. Anybody listening who has more than one child, as your children start to leave the nest, your family dynamics really profoundly change. They've shifted. I've had two children leave home for college. So from 3 to 2 was a huge change. From 2 to 1 has also been a huge change. And so now it's
Mhm.
just three of us at home, me and my husband and my teenage daughter. And it has turned into, for the three of us, truly, all three of us will go food shopping, we'll cook dinner,
Mm.
we'll clean up, whatever. My daughter will often take charge of, I'll go to the store, I don't mind, I kind of like to cook. And that it has turned into something all three of us either take turns doing or more often do together. The prepping, the cooking, the eating, the cleaning up.
Mhm.
We participate
Wow,
together every night. Yeah, it's turned
what a
into something we kind of
success.
enjoy. Yeah, yeah, and that wasn't something that I don't know, I whiteboarded or I insisted had to occur. I don't know. It kind of took me by surprise, and I think things change a little bit at a time and then all at once.
Mhm, and it's the energy, I think, in which you approach it that, you were not just talking about this.
Right.
It
Right,
was
we were
yeah.
actually living it, and a supportive, cooperative spouse really helps, right?
Mhm.
And I think the pandemic, at least in my house, and I think in a lot of houses, sort of circled, this cannot hold, this cannot be, right? That
Mhm.
I had three kids on Zoom school.
Ugh.
I had, my husband also home yelling into his, making speakerphone calls all day long.
Oh,
We live in
boy.
an open plan apartment without enough doors. Um, and, three meals a day.
Mm.
And I found myself, running our family's life and my own projects from a tiny corner of our kitchen table, giving
Oh.
everybody else the spaces where you could shut off or have quiet or have peace or have, and then, the kitchen with three meals a day, including for two teenage boys, it just was constant, the work. And it just
Mhm.
was so obvious, I think, to everybody. It just became, the invisible workload became visible and just too much.
Aha, that's brilliant. So your developmental stage and the kids launching, your immune response, COVID, all these things became there wasn't a choice. Something
Right,
had to
right, right.
something
I woke up burned, right, and something had to
you
change,
woke
and
up burned. Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
and so my husband is, turned into somebody who he has people who work for him, and he'd be running a staff call while unloading the dishwasher, and they laugh at him.
Just like we do.
Right, that's right, that's right. I
Mhm.
think everybody on the call, the women especially, appreciated that their boss was saying like, yeah, we're all doing this right now. It's fine.
And I was very sexist in saying, "What effect might this have had on your daughter?" I wonder what your boys learned from this.
They it's interesting because I think we do still. It is those that ingrained sexism that we're not aware of, right? That you do still sort of enforce different roles on different children. My son, who's a senior in college now and lives off campus, he knows how to cook a few things. My daughter looks on Instagram and makes things up and tries different sauces, and she's really into it. And I think it's real. I think it's real that I have one kid who really enjoys cooking as a creative act, and it happens to be my daughter. But then you do wonder. You should wonder, and I do wonder, and I don't really have an answer for you on whether. I also think it's because she was the last child at home, but I don't know for sure. And I just think it's something to sort of clock in yourself and keep an eye on. Are you continuing to put these expectations on your female children that they help more than female children?
Yeah. Being self-aware is always a good
right. This happens a little bit at a time.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a fascinating subject, and I really appreciated your take on it, that this isn't stop being a perfectionist, stop that, it's like, look at the air we're breathing and get curious about why you're making the decisions you're making, and notice your body might be talking to you.
That's very well said. Yes. The air you're breathing, right.
The air you breathe. So wonderful, lovely book. I was so excited to be able to talk to you more about it, because I just thoroughly enjoyed it. Where can people find out more about you, Amy, and your offerings?
Well, you can go to amywilson.com.
Okay.
Where you can find out about Happy to Help, my book. You can also find out about my podcast, which is called What Fresh Hell. As you said, it's a parenting podcast. We try to really cover the waterfront. We have parents of all ages and stages listening. Hundreds of episodes, including Mate. And we do episodes every week, and we try to combine humor and insight in every episode.
And I love you have this beautiful balance, and you talk about you guys are opposites, and I think that you and your host, but what I really appreciate it, being kind of research nerd myself, is that you have these great conversations. You laugh a lot. I just listened to the one on Halloween, and how it's everyone has such a different perspective, but then you bring in real research and real experts to talk about. And you had one, a woman who lived in Normandy, talking about very different paths for children. It's how shall I say it? It's entertaining, but it is very thought-provoking, and I found it to be excellent. So I would highly recommend it to our listeners today. What Fresh Hell podcast. It's delightful and thought-provoking.
Thank you so much. Yes. And I hope you're happy for help. It's available for pre-sale. You can go to amywilson.com or just wherever you buy books.
Beautiful. Amy, it's been a pleasure. I wish you continued success. It sounds like you've really found a resident topic. I hear women talk about this all day long in therapy sessions. Their struggle with this, their conflict with it. So I think you obviously have really hit it on a nerve. And
thank you. I'm so excited. I'm really excited to be talking about it and getting this book out in the world.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. Our theme song is All I Did Was Wait for You by Kjartan Abel. Visit Kjartan-Abel, that's KJARTAN-Abel, ABEL.com to hear more of Kjartan's work. And our technical director is Stephen Litweiler. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest. See you then.